morning, my friends, and happy Friday morning. So today we are going to talk about something very exciting. It is donuts. Not the kind of donuts that you eat and you have to watch how many donuts you eat, but no, we are talking about much better donuts. These donuts are so good for you. They are Gemstone donuts. They're just beautiful, and they don't contribute to your waistline, so that is wonderful. Those are the donuts we like. And of course, we are talking about Gemstone donuts within the context of making brooches or pins, which are pretty much the most popular type of jewelry this year. Yes, it's a bit of a trend. Is it here to stay? I don't know. But for right now, it is the most exciting piece of jewelry you can make. So let's take a peek. And of course, these are Gemstone donuts. So each one is going to be different and unique. Hence, the piece that you're going to make with it is going to be unique to just you, because generally Mother Nature does not make two that are exactly alike. Okay guys, so not last week, but 2 weeks ago rather, I made these pins, and some of you were here to watch the video and make comments and ask questions, and some of you maybe were not. So today is essentially my second installment in the brooch series, and yes, I think it will become a series. How often I'm going to do this, I don't know, but so this is definitely something that builds on the first part of this series. So if you made one of these very simple pins, you will have an easier time following than if you hadn't. But having said that, this is a very simple technique. So even if this is just the very first brooch video that you're watching, it is still doable. I think it's still very doable.
Lonnie says, good morning, beautiful day here.
Good morning, Lonnie. I'm so glad you're having a beautiful day. We are having a gorgeous day here too, even though it's still a little bit cold, but a beautiful day in Wisconsin.
Kim C says, good morning, Irina, Tony, Lauren, and all, and sends sunshine.
Oh, thank you for your sunshine, Kim. And good morning.
Robin says, good morning.
Good morning, Robin.
Fonda says, happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday, Fonda.
Peggy says, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Peggy. So thank you so much for joining me this morning, ladies. So we are making gemstone donut brooches. So it's a simple design, guys, and there are just a few fairly simple basics that you have to know. And as I mentioned, they are going to build on the pins that I previously made. So before I go ahead and do, start the actual project, I would like to talk a little bit about just donuts, because for example, in the last video on pins, somebody said, can you make this into a pendant? And yes, absolutely. So I would like to address that the fact that this is a specific video to the brooch design. But having said that, I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about donuts and how fun it is to design with donuts. I have used donuts in so many different designs, with wire, with chain, with silver silk. And yes, I do have videos on all of these techniques. So if anybody watching, maybe you're just starting to design jewelry, or maybe you missed some of the videos, you can always go back and watch the videos for the techniques that I'm showing you right now. For example, this bail was created with silver silk. So you can go back and watch that video. There is one on wire work. Here's a little bit more silver work.
Deb says, good morning, everyone.
Hello, Deb, and thanks for joining me.
Karen says, good afternoon from the UK.
Hi, Karen from the UK. And here's one with a wire work technique. This one is actually right out of one of my books. So if you have my wire work books, you might already have this one. So just showing you that there's so many things we can do with a simple donut. And it doesn't stop at just brooches. But if you're a brooch wearer, or maybe even if you are not, this is a bale, by the way, that is specific to donuts. So even if you're not a brooch wearer, maybe you will become one this year, because I'm telling you, brooches are hot, hot, hot. And, you know, in fact, one of our lovely ladies who works here at Eclectica, her name is Sue. She brought me a wonderful article from the New York Times. In fact, you guys can just Google it if you want to. Just look up brooches New York Times and it will pop right up. It tells you all about the trend. And of course, we can interpret the trend as we want to.
Karen says, good afternoon from the UK.
Hello, Karen. I think we already said
we did.
hi
Okay.
to Karen
I
from
lost
the UK.
track.
But it's okay. We'll say hello again.
Julie says, hello.
Hi, Julie.
Pammy J says, good morning, all.
Hello, Pammy J.
Robin says, love the pendants.
Oh, thank you so much, Robin.
And Brenda says, good morning.
Good morning, Brenda. All right, ladies. So here in front of me, I have 3 beautiful gemstone donuts, very similar to the ones that I have on top of my hand that already made into brooches. And I also have 3 buttons. So this is a simple design. So essentially the premise of the design is that the button anchors the entire pin. Not only visually does it anchor the design, but also physically. It is actually a part of our mechanics, how everything holds together. And what I want to say is that everything is remixable. So when you see this kit in the Etsy shop, you will see that there are 3 buttons and 3 donuts. And you can see that I mixed it a little differently this time. For example, the Edelweiss flour I used on the lepidolite donut in my sample. And right now I have it on the lapis lazuli donut. So I just wanted to point out that everything is remixable and we can do it as we want to. The other thing is that, of course, each stone is unique and beautiful, but they can really vary greatly. So if you do end up ordering the kit, each stone is beautiful. I hand selected each stone, but each stone is unique. So here, when we look at the lepidolite, it can be a little lighter, it can be more pinky, it can be a little more purpley, or a lot more purpley in this case. It can be, most of them are on the pinker side though. The lapis can be lighter, it can be darker, it can have different inclusions. The same with the carnelian. So we have the light and dark. And of course, depending on what it is that we like, as far as how the button complements the stone, we can remix. For example, to me, the carnelian could go with, especially the, well, no, maybe the darker carnelian too could go with the copper button very beautifully, or it could go with one of the silver buttons. So we can just remix as we want to. I guess I'm not a big fan of the copper button on top of the lepidolite because it kind of blends in a little bit. But before I get started, you tell me what you like. So tell me what you like on the lapis, on the carnelian, and the lepidolite before I start designing.
Sandy says, good morning, Irina.
Good morning, Sandy.
Barb says, I'm late, was busy ordering from last night's demo.
Oh, fantastic, Barb. I'm glad you're joining us.
And Katie S. says, happy Friday all.
Hey, Katie. I'm so happy to hear from you.
And to answer Katie's question, yes, we're working on the kaleidoscope bracelet.
Yes, you guys.
As we speak.
Yes. Actually, I should have grabbed the kaleidoscope bracelet because I tell you guys, it's been the most popular project in forever. I mean, a lot of the projects are popular. A lot of the projects sell out. But this one literally sold out in one day. So yes, we have reordered everything that it takes to make more kaleidoscope bracelets. So when they come in, you guys will be the first to know. And you know, I'm going to guess that maybe in a week to a week and a half, we will be able to restock the kaleidoscope bracelet.
Connie says, hello all, running late.
Hi, Connie.
Robin says, stones look beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Kim C, is the image blurry in general, or is it just on my end, just trying to fix?
Kim, I don't know, but let's ask. Is anyone else's image blurry? Please let us know.
Lauren says it looks sharp. Pammy J says her view is clear.
Fantastic. So Kim, it sounds like maybe you need to fix. So good luck with that.
Maybe just refresh.
That
helps
usually
too.
helps. Yes.
Diane says beautiful pieces.
Thank you so much, Diane.
Fonda says love the lapis and flower, the one in the center on the bottom row.
Okay, so you like the lapis with the flower. So should we make it just as is?
Deb says I love the center of the lepidolite and the lapis.
Awesome.
Diane says good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Diane.
Deb says clear, and Francine says clear, and Barb says clear here. Diane says perfect view, and Fonda says my view is good too.
Oh, fantastic. All right, so good. I'm happy to hear that.
Kim says gotcha, thanks. I'll refresh or hop on my phone.
Yay.
And Katie says clear here, but I had to close and reopen for the past sessions. Yeah, that's Facebook.
Yeah.
Carol says good morning all.
Good morning, Carol. All right, ladies. So I know that some of you watched the first installment on the pins.
Sandy says yes, make as is, love the lapis.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Sandy.
Linda says hello, everyone.
Hi, Linda. All right. So as you probably remember, or maybe you don't, when we made these pins, we started at one end and we just kind of proceeded to the other end, and it was done in a specific order. Although, could we change that order? Yes, absolutely. But today we're going to go in a slightly different order. And that, of course, because we have a very different construction. So, you know, I'm going to start with the lapis. And you will see in a few minutes why. So we'll start with the lapis. And of course, so this is one other thing I want you guys to know, is that you have two different types of wire in your kit. You have the silver. Of course, you will have a continuous length. I already pre-cut mine. So you have the silver and you have the copper. I'm not talking about sterling silver, of course, but silver tone. And you have the copper. And so to me, it makes the most sense that the piece with the copper button would be paired with the copper wire, but it does not have to be. So we could always have our copper piece on whatever donut we like. Let's say maybe carnelian this time, right? So maybe this one. And maybe we could have silver in as far as the wire. So you can remix however you want to. So, but you do have the options of making one of the pins out of copper, and then you have more than enough wire for the two remaining, possibly a third or even a fourth pin, if you decide to make more on your own. All right, so as I said, this is a slightly different plan. So I'm starting out with a 12-inch segment of wire, and I'm going to measure approximately 4 to 4.5 inches from one end. So now we have a long end and a short end. And I will grab my round nose pliers, or maybe actually not my round nose pliers, but my flat nose pliers, and I will make like a soft bend, a very soft, almost like a rounded bend around the flat nose pliers. And the reason I'm doing it this way this time is because I'm trying to accommodate this shank. You know, let's look at all three buttons for a second, upside down. So you can see that 2 out of 3 have the more traditional shank, and this bigger button has an oversized shank, which almost looks like a large tube. So this large tube is maybe 4 to 5 millimeters across, and therefore we're making this bend to accommodate that. Because what happens next is we slide the button over the wire, and since we have marked the spot by making that soft bend, now we can just continue bending the two ends around the button shank. So this is what we have. And now both ends are going to go through our donut of choice. So we selected our lapis donut. And so as I said, literally, the button is what anchors the pin. So just let's backtrack just for a second, because I'm going to point out something that's going to become a little bit important a little later on as we make the next pin. So if we look at that large shank, it's actually, let's backtrack a little more. So this shank, as you can see, it's almost a perfect fit in the donut hole. So there's only a little room on the sides of the shank, and that is just the perfect amount of room for our button. So it just kind of happened to work out like that. And for this particular design, it's important. So we're going to put our ends of the wire through the donut, and now we're going to do this for realsies. So we're just going to bend the wire just by hand right against the donut, nice and flat. And now this is going to start looking very familiar if you watched the first installment of the pins. So this is what we'll do. We'll maybe, I'll use my round nose pliers, and I'm just going to start making a loop. And this is the loop that's going to be the center of our spring, right? So this essentially becomes a spring. And sometimes I just do it by hand. Sometimes I will use a pair of pliers. And so we're just about done. So I'm just kind of forming this spring by hand, and I like the shape that it came out.
But if I didn't like the shape, I could very easily reshape it right now. But I think it's kind of a fun shape. Or do we want it a little rounder? I don't know. Maybe we do want it a little rounder. So if we want it a little rounder and you want to reshape it, you could just use your flat nose pliers, and you can see how I am just squeezing it at points where I want it to round out. And it will open up and become a little rounder. Sometimes you kind of have to look for how can you get in between the donut and our spiral. All right, so what do you think? It's maybe a little more. Okay, so I think this is good. And you know, clearly if you wanted to shape it a different way, you could do that. But I'm not going to focus on the spiral right now. You get the idea. Well, you know what? Maybe I will make it a little smaller. Actually, maybe I will add to it. You know, sometimes it just takes a little finesse. So we will finesse the spiral a little.
Teresa says joining in.
Hi, Teresa, and I'm glad you're joining us. So I decided to reshape it a little bit and make another coil on the outside of the initial coil.
Robin says very cool.
Thank you so much, Robin.
Diane says these are the best donuts to go with my coffee.
Oh, yay! Perfect.
Sandy A says I'm a little late, but I'm here, so happy Friday.
Hi, Sandy. Happy Friday to you as well.
Teresa says joining in.
Hello, Teresa.
Francine says, if you have a chance, can you show the kaleidoscope bracelet?
Yes, you know what I'll do? A little later on, I will ask Tony to grab it. Actually, do we know where it is right now?
I think so.
I think we can find at least one. Yes, we had the kaleidoscope bracelet. It was like, it ended up being a very, very popular one. And so we sold out very quickly. It's actually 3 bracelets in one kit. And yes, we are restocking it. Okay, so I'm spending way too much time on this one spiral, but you know, I guess I just can't leave it alone. But so you guys get the idea. You can reshape it as you go. You can just finesse it until you are happy with the shape. All right, so, and if I want to, I can always go back and finesse it a little more. See, now it got a little too big for my taste, so maybe I'll make it a little smaller.
Vicky says just joining.
Hello,
Great use
Vicky.
of donuts.
Thank you so much, Vicky. I'm so glad you like it. All right, so almost done with this part, guys. Normally it does not take this long, but it can. All right, so this is what it looks like. And really all I have left to do on the other side is just make the spiral that the pin part will go into. So let's do that. And
Gwen,
I think I'm going to make this just a little shorter.
Gwen says tuning in late. What is the gauge of the wire?
Hello, Gwen. I'm so glad you asked. Thank you. So the wire gauge is 18, and I am working with wire that is equivalent to half hard, and that of course is the Beadsmith brand, and you will find that in the Etsy shop, as well as the kit. So what I'm making today is actually a kit which has 3 donuts and 3 buttons. So essentially everything that you see me using today. So as you can see, I'm making a spiral, and this is going to become a part of our brooch mechanism. So this is what the pin part is going to go into. And it's just as simple as that. So I don't know, is this a little too big? Maybe I'll make it a little smaller later, you guys. I'm not going to fidget with it right now, but I think I might just make it a little bit smaller to go with that part.
Gwen says thank you.
My pleasure, Gwen. So the other thing that I like to do is bend this slightly. Sometimes I will do that. It just sort of adds a little bit to the design. So it is still pinnable like that. And so the other thing that we need to do is actually make this into a pin. So how do we make this into a pin? You might remember this from last time. We are going to cut the wire at an angle, like a 45-degree angle. And then we are going to use sandpaper to sharpen the pin on all sides.
Sandy says, do you have the kits in the store?
Sandy, thank you for asking. Yes, we will this afternoon. So they're like maybe just a few minutes from being put together. And if you come in, I will say afternoon, they will be ready. And thank you for asking. All right, so you guys have seen me do this before. I'm just using sandpaper. This is like 220. It doesn't have to be 220, but if you have 220 on hand, that's great. If you have 600 even, that's fine. So it doesn't have to be anything super specific. And ta-da! So our pin is done. The other thing we could do, the other thing we could do is a little bit of hammering on this side. So unlike before where we started with this part and we hammered it, we can't really do that. So we can't pre-hammer before we add our gemstone component. So now we're just going to have to be very careful not to hit the donut as we hammer the spiral. Okay, so this is just an element of design. You can do it or not do it. And this is what it looks like.
Barb says it looks beautiful as is. I think that was maybe before you hammered it.
Oh, thank you so much, Barb.
Kathy K says looks like fun.
Thank you, Kathy.
Sandy says I will be in around 1:30. See you then.
Fantastic. We will see you soon, Sandy.
Sorry, that's Sandy K.
Gotcha. All right, so as you can see, as you hammer the spiral, it will open up a little bit. And so it makes it a little closer in size to this one, if that's important to you. If not, that's okay. So even now, I could still make this a little different. I could reshape it as long as I have enough wire to pin, the pin, because that is really the entire point of the project.
Linda says, do you think this could be used for running a silk scarf through the back?
Well, I don't see why not. You could actually just pin it through your scarf as well. I mean, it's usable as a pin, or you can just run your scarf through it if you wanted to. This is what it looks like on the back of the pin, so it's nice and clean. It probably looks exactly like you expected it to look.
Diane says I could see this on a purse.
Absolutely, why not? So this is kind of like one of those, this is actually a very, very old design. It is a fibula design. It goes back centuries ago. And so this is doable. And in fact, this is something that used to be used for pinning clothes together, for kilts, for just all sorts of things. So whatever use you find for it is a perfectly good use, so be creative.
Carol says maybe as a hairdressing.
I don't know that I would would necessarily put it in my hair just exactly the way it is, because this is actually a sharp pin. Once you sharpen it, this is sharp, and also just a bit heavy. I'm not necessarily concerned about the weight, but I would probably design it just a little bit differently if I were doing it for my hair, because generally you wouldn't sharpen the end so much for your hair. But yes, if you adapt it, absolutely, all of those things are wonderful. So very good ideas. Okay, guys, so we're going to move on to something just a little bit different. So what I want to point out is that we had a very nice fit with this button, because that large tube shank fit into the hole of the donut very, very well. And most donut holes are standard, and most donut holes are going to look something like this. And then some donuts will have an oversized hole like this. So whether you have an oversized hole or a standard hole, the next technique will apply to both. But because maybe the oversized hole is a little bit less intuitive, I will work with the oversized hole to do the next demo, so that you know exactly how to address both when working with a standard size shank button.
Vicky says, as a pendant with two clasp chain.
Oh, yes, that sounds wonderful.
Carol says, maybe through a ponytail.
I would love it through a ponytail. Actually, I wear a ponytail a lot. And yes, I would totally wear it with my ponytail. But really, I would probably make the end a little bit more rounded. Because, you know, I just would not want to poke myself in the scalp with this very sharp pin. It's just me, you guys.
Sandy K says the blue would be perfect for something blue for a wedding, pinned into a dress.
Why not? Why not, right? So all of those sound like lovely ideas. Thank you so much, ladies. Okay, so let's grab some more wire, and we'll start on the next one. So because we don't have a very wide shank on this button, I am just going to start again around the same distance from the end, maybe like 4 inches or so. I don't know, is this 4 inches perhaps? Let's measure it. So yeah, it's like 4 inches. So I'm going to start about 4 inches from the end. And now we're going to string our button onto the wire. And so far it's the same, right? So we are going to put both ends through the donut. Both ends of the wire go through the donut. And look what happens. So our button just kind of rattles around in there, and it does not stay in place really nicely like the other one did. So what should we do about this? Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to backtrack just a tiny little bit. So when you have this issue, so maybe you have a standard size hole, or maybe you have a really big hole. But even with the standard size hole, you can see how the button is just going to move around, and it's not going to stay in place. And that is neither a good look, nor, I mean, look-wise, it's okay, really. I mean, it doesn't have to be symmetrical, right? So look-wise, it's not like a terrible thing, although with this one, it's not the best because we can actually see the opening of the donut. But more than anything, it's just not good construction if things are just kind of rattling around. So we need to do something to make our button stay in place. So where's my wire? Right here. So I'm going to use an additional piece of wire. And this is 24 gauge wire. And this is approximately 4 feet. So this is 4 feet of 24 gauge wire, which I already bent in half so that so the center of the 4 foot length of 24 gauge wire looks like this. It's like a soft bend. And I'm going to put it through my button before I even use the 18 gauge wire. So if you're wondering what this is going to do, I will tell you. This is going to fill that gap between the donut and the button. So it's actually going to fill in the donut hole. So what I'm going to do is I will go through the button shank a couple of times, just kind of connecting the wire, anchoring the wire on the button shank. Okay, so this is one time. Can you see the loop? Okay, so you can see the loop around the button. And so what's nice is that this button allows for the wire to go through a couple of times. So I will take advantage of that. If the button that you're using does not allow to go for the wire to go through a couple of times, then maybe just once is enough. But 2 is better than 1. So when I say it allows for the wire to go through a couple of times, what I really mean is that, and we still have enough room for the 18 gauge wire to go through. So this may look a little bit complex, but it's really not. So this is what's happening. I made, let's backtrack. So this is like, almost like a figure 8. Can you guys see this is a figure 8? Even if you can't see it, everybody knows what a figure 8 looks like, but Tony is telling me that the camera is picking it up. So you can see the figure 8 going through the shank. And so now I will put my 18 gauge wire right back through. And this is what it looks like. So we have the 18 gauge wire and the 22 gauge wire. And so now what we will do is we'll put both ends of the 24 gauge wire together. And can you see I'm holding my fingers, right below the shank. So you see how I'm just below the shank, and I am going to start winding the 2 ends of the wire around the button shank. So I'm staying as close to the button as I possibly can. And this does not have to be beautiful. So let me just stop for a second and show you. This is where we're going. Can you see all of that wire inside the donut? And it looks like, oh my God, that's a lot of wire, but it goes so quickly, you guys. All right, so let's keep going. And I'm just going to continue winding the wire. And if you're not quite sure, like, do I stop? What do I do? You can always just do a little fitting. Yes, it's just like getting a dress fitted. So we put it over our messy little wire. It's almost like a wire rosette, right? So let's think of it as a rosette. And you can see how the donut is still very rattly. So no worries, let's do some more. And so again, this is going to take roughly 4 feet of wire, of the 24 gauge wire. So we're just going to continue wrapping around. And this is not like you need to know some kind of a fancy technique in order to do this. You just hold it all in place, and it really doesn't unwind. It doesn't do a whole lot of anything. And we're going to continue winding. And now we'll try it again. So you may need to do a couple of fittings. Okay, so we're getting close. Can you guys see we're getting close? So one thing you don't want to do is go outside of the diameter of the button. So like you don't want to go this way. But we're not even close yet. So just tighten it, and maybe we'll do a little bit more. What I meant is we're not even close to going outside of the button diameter. We are close to being done, if you're wondering about that. So I'm just going to hold on to my wire and try this one more time. The other thing you can do is you can point the ends of the wire in the same direction as the ends of your heavier wire, your 18 gauge wire. And this way all 4 ends will go through the donut hole, and this will give us even a better idea. Okay, so I think I may have overachieved a little bit because I can't go through. So can you guys see I can't go through? So it's not a big deal, really. I'm just going to backtrack a little. So a little unwinding, and we'll be there. So as I'm unwinding, I'm also just kind of pulling on the wire and making sure everything is nice and tight. Okay, so let's give it another try.
Maybe show us a side view once you have it on.
Absolutely. All right, so now, okay, I think I'm right there. So this is the side view. So you should not be able to see any wire from the side. Okay, and when you look at the back, you see it nicely filled. So that was really easy. Like anybody can just wind wire, right? And it's quick. All right, so now that we decided that we're done, we're going to again point the wire ends towards the donut hole. And now all 4 ends will go through the donut hole. Okay, I have one side that's being just a little stubborn, but it's only because there's a little spring in the wire, and can you see, I just pulled it and it all fell into place really, really nicely. So I can't see wire on any of the sides, and that means I am ready for the next step. So what we'll do is we will do the same thing as before, which is bend the 2 wire ends, the 2 ends of the 18 gauge wire in the opposite directions. So it's like the wire is doing the splits. And now I'm going to take my 18 gauge wire and also split it.
The 24 gauge wire you're splitting?
Yes, the 24 gauge wire, that's right. So the 24 gauge wire, and now each end of the 24 gauge wire is going to go around the corresponding end of the 18 gauge wire, and we're just going to wind it a few times or coil it a few times. And as you are getting ready to cut off the end, just make your coils nice and close. You can even bring them together a little bit with your flat nose pliers, and then we're going to snip the excess wire off, leaving just a little bit, so leaving that little teeny end, and then we're going to use our chain nose pliers to tuck the end underneath so that it doesn't stick out.
Betty says, I have a beautiful button that I was going to use for a bracelet fastener, but I think I'll use it for this instead.
You know what? Whatever works for you. But yes, buttons can make such a beautiful pin. So I hope you make a pin out of it. And of course, I hope you share it with us on the Facebook page.
Suzanne says, hi, Irina and Tony, tuning in late.
Hi, Suzanne. Well, I'm glad you're tuning in. And if you're interested in a technique, you could always rewatch later.
Robin is wondering what type of cutters you use.
Hi, Robin. Thank you for asking. So this is my very favorite cutter in the world. I am just about married to this cutter. It is a Eurotool cutter. What is amazing about it is that it can cut both your traditional wire as well as your soft flex type of wire. And I have been using these for years, and they hold up beautifully as long as you don't abuse them. So make sure you don't use them on memory wire, but you can use them on just about anything else in your jewelry projects. And we do have them in the Etsy shop. They're my favorite cutters. Okay, guys, so you probably know exactly where we're going to take it from here. So let's just do this really quickly. So just as before, we are going to start a little spiral. And yes, you can start it with your round nose, or you can start it with your chain nose pliers, really whatever you are more comfortable with. And we're just going to start by making a little loop. Maybe I'll bring it just a little closer to our donut. So we'll start by making a loop, and then we'll just kind of have the spiral radiate around that loop. All right, so there is our spiral, and also a part of our spring. And again, we can shape it, we can reshape it, we can make it more rounder, we can make it smaller, larger, however you want to make it. I'm just going to round out this part a little bit, and then we're going to make the spiral on the other side. And you pretty much already know exactly what is going to happen because we've done this before. And where's my round nose? Right here. So I'm going to make a spiral on this side and cut off the excess wire. And then we will continue to spiral. So first, I will close that little loop with my flat nose pliers. And then it's easiest by rocking the wire back and forth if you really want to control how the spiral forms. And I know I don't do it on the first part because it's a different type of spiral. You can't grab it in the very same way. But on this side, of course, the two sides of the wire do not overlap. So for that reason, it's very easy to grab with your flat nose pliers, the way I'm doing right now, and you have much more control as you are creating the spiral.
Sandy K says, can you add a bicone or other embellishment on the wire before making the spiral?
I don't see why not. So you could definitely add embellishment. One thing you have to think about is how are you going to make it stay in place? And an easy way to make it stay in place is, let's say, for example, let's say I want a little bicone here or here on the wire. What I would do is just not cut off the excess wire from that rosette in the center of the donut, I would just continue the wire and use that wire to kind of anchor that extra bead in place, if that makes sense. So, but yes, that would be lovely.
Karen says, sorry, had to run to the vet this morning. We'll watch the replay.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. I hope everybody's okay.
Suzanne says, wow, I never would have thought to use buttons this way. I love it.
Oh, yay. Thank you so much, Suzanne. So, yes, so the buttons, you know, buttons have so much character. Like these buttons, you know, this is a floral button, clearly. And I just love what it does for the carnelian. In fact, I use the same button on both of my carnelian donuts. So I think it brings a lot of fun detail, as well as you know, I mentioned before, both physically and visually, it anchors the design. I think it adds a lot to the design because, of course, I match the color of the button to the color of the wire I use, as well as here where I use the copper button. So this is a beautiful patinaed copper button, and I used copper wire.
So it looks like the buttons you're holding right now are for a righty and the one that you made is for a lefty?
Oh, Tony, you're so observant. I was just about to say that. Absolutely. So this one would be for a lefty. And of course, you know, I didn't say, but yes, you could hammer the spiral, and yes, of course, you would sharpen the pin itself. And you could also shorten this a little. But yes, you could definitely make your buttons specific to the person you're making it for. Maybe yourself, maybe, you know what, Mother's Day is coming up. If you know that the person you're giving it to is either a righty or a lefty, this is very easy to see. So, for example, the lapis button right here, or I'm sorry, the lapis brooch, this one, this would definitely be for a righty because it pins from right to left. You would pin it with your right hand. This one, however, is exactly the opposite. So you would pin this with your left hand.
Can you show us the back of the copper button?
Of course. So let's talk a little bit about the copper button. So if you are using the copper button, or not even so much, I'm not even talking about necessarily just the copper button, but really any button with a standard shank. And you know what? Let's do a mini demo, like a super quick one. So this is going to be on something like this, where it's not quite so much wire, but still there's just a little. So a super, super quick demo with copper wire. So the same thing, we're going to bend the copper wire. And this is not because it's copper or silver. Really, all I'm talking about is just the size of the hole. So in your kit, you will get maybe, I think, a couple of feet of copper wire, which is really more than enough for a standard size hole in a donut. So we're going to start out with all the same steps where we take our wire and put it through the button.
Kim C says, so beautiful. Love working with donuts and buttons. Your tutorial has opened some new doors on creativity.
Oh, yay. Thank you so much, Kim. You know, that is exactly what I love to hear.
Suzanne is wondering what gauge wire you are using.
Thank you for asking, Suzanne. So this is still 28 gauge wire. So in both, I'm sorry, did I say 28? I meant 24. I meant 24. So yes, it's 24 gauge wire. So it's all the same. So it's still 24 gauge wire for the little wire and 18 gauge wire for the big wire. So again, roughly 4 inches from the end, you bend the wire, the 18 gauge wire. And so now we're working with a donut hole that is not quite as large as the carnelian donut, but still large enough where we have to do just a little fill in for the donut hole. So again, I am just going to wind the 24 gauge wire around the shank. So in this case, the wire is not the button is not domed. So the silver wire was domed and hollow on the inside. So I kind of pushed the wire in. But in this case, the button is very flat. So all I'm doing is just pushing the wire right against the button itself. It's very easy. So literally all you're doing is just winding around the shank itself. So let's give it a shot. So do we have enough? Oh yes, that is perfect. So first time is the charm.
Can we see the side view?
Absolutely. So you can see the side view, and I'm also going to show you the back. So on the back, it's going to look something like that. And again, you are just, again, I'm not doing the full demo, but just so you can see how very, very easy. So not quite as many fittings, as I call them, not as many fittings with a standard size hole, because it's just so intuitive. Look, this is like perfect, nothing moves. And so all I would have to do is just continue as I did with the carnelian button. So you just split the two ends and wrap a little bit. Here I didn't wrap a whole lot. You can see I just kind of tuck the wire in, almost like back in the hole. But we could go around the wire. Frankly, it's just a little bit easier to use that technique, where you just take the ends of the 24 gauge wire and you wrap around the 18 gauge wire.
Sarah is wondering what size the donuts are that you're using.
That is a good question, Sarah. I will measure them.
The lapis and the carnelian are 40 millimeter and the lepidolite is 45 millimeters.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Tony. Okay, so 40 and 45 millimeters. But you could do this with a larger donut. You could do it with a smaller donut. You really, as long as you are happy with the donut visually, if it makes sense to you to use a donut with the button you have, I would just go for it. Well, that, and also if it gets too big, consider the weight. So you guys know exactly where to take it from here, I think.
Kim C says, gorgeous cut and depth on that donut, not too thick and not too thin.
Oh, thank you so much, Kim. I really hope you guys can see how beautiful the lepidolite donuts are. The lepidolite itself is a mica. So what that means is that it has these layers of, I don't know, this beautiful, sparkly, very organically glittery kind of stuff. It's just really very lovely. I love lepidolite. It's just, there's something so very magical about it. Can you guys see the little sparkles in the lepidolite? All of this is totally natural, guys. It's, you know, nature is just really magical. So anyway, this is what we made today. So clearly I didn't finish this one, but you know, we kind of ran out of time. So I think you know how to continue. And I hope you make lots of these. And of course, enjoy. And oh gosh, yes. So you know what? Let me just maybe I'll show you some goodies on my table while Tony goes and gets the kaleidoscope bracelet. And so in the meantime, we can play. And so the kaleidoscope bracelet again is something that was crazy, really popular, and we get multiple questions per day about the kaleidoscope bracelet. So yes, we are redoing the kit, and it is a very simple technique. If you guys did not see the video, you can easily find it. I'm sure that Lauren will have a link for the kaleidoscope bracelet. But in the meantime, just for fun, I will show you a few more pieces that were made using donuts. I don't think I showed you this one. So this one is kind of a fun one with a little wire and a tassel. I like this one a lot. All right, so the kaleidoscope bracelets are here. Woohoo!
Fonda says, I never knew what to do with the donuts. You gave us such great ideas. Thank you. So pretty.
Oh, thank you so much, Fonda.
Carol says, I think they would look nice on a holiday tree.
Oh,
That's a good idea.
What an interesting idea. I like it.
Pammy J says, beautiful and so clever.
Thank you so much, Pammy J. So you guys remember these, or maybe you don't. Maybe you didn't see the video. So this is what the kaleidoscope bracelet looks like. So it's actually a trio of bracelets, and it was a very simple kit with a whole bunch of beads, like enough beads for at least 3 bracelets, and some leather in different colors, and it's a button closure. So it's just really boho and fun. It's the kind of bracelet that you could wear on a trip. You know, it's something very casual. It's the kind of bracelet you could wear to go backpacking through Europe, or maybe just, I don't know, it's boho, it's very casual, but there's something kind of chic about it too.
Sandy K says, signing off. See you later.
Oh, thank you so much, Sandy. See you later. So anyway, these are the kaleidoscope bracelets. And yes, we are redoing the kit, or restocking the kit, I should say. We ordered everything that it takes to do that, but of course, you know, it's not instant. And it should be here in about a week to a week and a half or so. So just please be patient with us. And in the meantime, you know about the little bell, about how to sign up for the videos. So while you are watching the video, if you just click on that little bell, that will sign you up to get the notices when we're about to have a video. And then of course, you probably already know this, I do 3 videos per week, and the next one is on Monday, and that is of course for my stitching friends. So if you like stitching, you can join me on Monday. Otherwise, it's not really an instructional video. The one on Monday is not like the others. It's not an instructional video. But my next instructional video like this is going to be on Thursday, and it's on the protective eye designs. And we're really going to have a lot of fun with all those protective eyes and possibly other symbols. And next Friday, I will do a chain remix. In fact, those are already listed as videos, or as events, yes. So if you want to RSVP for those events, they're already up, and you can preview what it looks like. So the chain remix is also going to be super, super fun. It's where we take gemstone chain, other chain, and we just remix it into something new and different.
Connie says, thanks so much. As always, so inspirational.
Thank you so much, Connie.
Lonnie says, happy weekend. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Lonnie, and great weekend to you as well.
Joan says, thank you for another great tutorial.
Thank you, Joan. All right, thank you so much, ladies.
Suzanne says, thank you, another great tutorial.
Thank you, Suzanne. I really, really appreciate it. All right, guys, so thank you so much again for joining me. Thank you for all of your wonderful comments and questions. And have a wonderful and creative weekend.